Wildlife depends on healthy habitat. And in the state of Arizona, people forming partnerships are a key to ensuring it exists.
This is our commitment, the Arizona Elk Society's commitment to the Forest Service to come in here and do some really good work for wildlife.
It's a Saturday morning in July, and about 150 volunteers have gathered to help the Arizona Elk Society repair a critical ecosystem in the Coconino National Forest north of Payson.
In this area, you have more threatened and endangered species than just about anywhere else in Arizona in this 73,000 acres. So while we're here for elk, we're benefiting all those other wildlife at the same time.
Habitat projects are not unusual. All across Arizona, sportsmen's groups like the Elk Society are constantly working for wildlife.
We are conservationists, that's what we are. That's what we're doing out here. We're conserving wildlife habitat.
Game and Fish is doing the same, thanks to outdoor enthusiasts who generate revenue for the department every time they buy hunting and fishing licenses or equipment. But there's so much to do and limited dollars to do it. So in 1992, Game and Fish established a program focused on forging partnerships with other state and federal agencies, public and private landowners, and wildlife conservation groups like the Elk Society.
It's a true partnership. In fact, we meet 3 times a year.
Commissioner John Harris is talking about the Arizona Habitat Partnership Committee.
When this project came in,
it sets priorities for habitat projects statewide, based on input from a dozen local habitat partnership committees across Arizona.
HPC-wise, we've put at least 40 in.
They all have a seat at this table, along with conservation groups and other interested parties.
The local habitat partnership committees look at the priorities. They recommend their local priorities, comes back to the state organization, and it's give and take. It can be fairly heated at times, but ultimately everybody's looking at wildlife conservation. How can we do the best for wildlife?
There's always more projects, unfortunately, than we have money, but we look at the priority and see where we need to put the money on the landscape.
The money is raised at events like this.
Sold 1,700, sold 1,700, thank you, sir.
It's the Arizona Elk Society's annual fundraising banquet.
I had her at 3,000 on the back of it.
A huge event that's always packed with hundreds of outdoorsmen and women who are bidding on valuable items.
Sold 400, sold 400, again, there's my old friend.
Everything from guns to furniture to animal art. But the premier prize is a special elk tag provided by the Arizona Game and Fish Commission.
The special tag gives the buyer 365 days to hunt, so he can hunt in any open unit throughout the state for 365 days.
The Antelope Foundation has requested 2 tags.
Each year, the Commission awards these highly coveted tags to nonprofit wildlife conservation organizations and the Arizona Big Game Super Raffle.
Elk would go to the Arizona Big Game Super Raffle, the Arizona Elk Society, and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
3 special tags are issued for each of the 10 big game species.
Thank you for the opportunity for these tags.
Then the groups that get the tags raffle or auction them off to the highest bidder.
$100,000.
In 2013, the Arizona Elk Society sold its special elk tag for $210,000.
Sold right here tonight, you witnessed it at the Arizona Elk Society.
The amazing thing about that is they don't get to keep any of the money. 0. 100% of it comes back to the state of Arizona.
On that project also,
the Habitat Partnership Committee manages the money and makes sure every cent is spent on wildlife. It can be used to translocate animals into areas with dwindling populations, to build watering holes or modify fences that impede the movement of wildlife. HPC dollars can also help pay for prescribed fires designed to enhance habitat.
Every dollar of it goes back to the species that the actual tag went for, so we really do recover the money and put it back on the landscape.
In 2013, all 30 special big game tags generated a total of nearly $2 million. It's a nice chunk of change that will get even better.
You know, the amount of money that is raised, it grows tremendously. We're often able to match those dollars with federal dollars. We're able to get other organizations to pony up and throw in some additional funding to get work done.
So we want to start building at the bottom and come up.
Habitat Partnership not only creates the opportunity with the private landowner or the public agency, but more importantly in our case, it allows us to partner with the Mule Deer Foundation.
HPC funds help the Arizona Antelope Foundation improve grasslands for pronghorn in southeastern Arizona.
We paid to solarize a well and then actually have 3 different drinkers that come out from that well that favor both mule deer, whitetail, and pronghorn. We've also partnered with the Mule Deer Foundation and taken volunteers and gone and modified fences that also affect mule deer in the proximity of where we're doing our antelope work.
Game and Fish used HPC money to acquire a 40-acre parcel in this area, making it possible for the Arizona Elk Society to acquire and retire the associated grazing permit in 2009. Since then, the Elk Society's been working to repair this fragile riparian ecosystem at Buck Springs.
This is an example of a wet meadow system, and it provides some really unique habitat.
This meadow used to act like a sponge, soaking up rainwater and slowly releasing it. But the ground is drying up due to the loss of native grasses and other vegetation. As a result, there's little left to absorb rainwater, and instead of slowly seeping into the ground, it rushes across the landscape, making the meadow erode.
That increased runoff has energy that can destabilize the meadow, actually causing head cuts to form and the meadow to erode away. So this is an example of a head cut, which is an area of active erosion, and these head cuts typically advance upstream.
The Elk Society is helping the Forest Service stop the erosion by stabilizing head cuts with rocks and logs that will also slow the flow of water.
Dissipate it out across the land so it can soak in at a slower rate.
If we put rocks in there, they like in the soil.
It's a huge job that will continue for years to come, and it likely wouldn't get done without volunteers.
This is the first time we've volunteered, and it's the first time we've done anything with the Elk Society.
Stephen Patton and his 9-year-old son William have been removing barbed wire fences that get in the way of wildlife.
We like working, and we like nature, and we know that in this day and age it takes work to make nature work. And it's just doing a good thing for the forest, giving back.
To leave an area like this and know that you've done some good that will last for years to come, especially for wildlife, to me is very important. We can grow more elk, we can grow more deer, but we can't make new habitat. What we have to do is come back and repair and restore what we have already.
Let's try lifting what we got.
And by working together, forming partnerships, we get a lot more done and do a lot more good for Arizona's wildlife.
You know, we focus on elk, but we're benefiting all wildlife. It just flourishes in these riparian bottoms. It's just a phenomenal area for wildlife in the state of Arizona.